how did I prepare? I prepared by basically working for 19 years in computers. So I rebuild my own website. I do my own Facebook, my own Twitter. It is my most natural arena for communications. So I'm prepared. It is by who I am.
Welcome to the Digital Public Affairs videocast. I'm your host, Mark Blevis. On this edition, Kevin O'Donnell, the Green Party candidate for the riding of Ottawa Centre in the current Ontario provincial election, sharing his views on the role digital is playing in his current campaign, differences from the 2011 campaign, and how he sees digital playing a role in democratic engagement.
The last election, Twitter and even Facebook pages were just starting to be accepted as a norm. And now this time, between elections and federally throughout the whole thing, now everyone is on Twitter. And really, actually, probably the difference is Twitter has broken ahead as far as political and breaking news, and that's where you go for what's happening now. Facebook is kind of where you put things for posterity so that people can catch up over the week for people that just check at night or something. But I think the diehard news hounds and news consumers and political consumers, they're going to Twitter now. For Facebook, you have to put a picture with it because it's a more visual medium that goes by slower, and people like the images and look at it and click like, and then clicking like on an image brings it back into the news cycle for particular branches of the Facebook following stream as friends see friends' content. Whereas Twitter is much more short term, and you tweet it and it's gone, and only the most successful tweets will even be there the next day, still being retweeted. So Twitter I use much more conversationally. I'll jest with people on Twitter, and it'll go back and forth for a little while, and then the new topic will come up. So I treat Twitter as a place to comment in real time, whereas Facebook it's a little bit more formal, where I'll Facebook a photo that says a particular message, but I'll take the time to make sure it's a well-formed paragraph with better grammar. And Twitter's a lot more fun because spelling mistakes are accepted, they're even mocked, and then you can mock back, and there's a dynamic there that's, for me, more entertaining. I really enjoy Twitter. YouTube is a good place to put a thought it's still accepted to be a little bit more dynamic. So I did a video, some of them have topped out at about 7 minutes, where I discuss our plan to merge the Catholic school board with the public system and have just a public system with English and French boards. And the video is great because it's an opportunity to expand on a topic in a way that if I was going to try to write it all down, it would probably take me about 2 hours by the time I get it all in there and well-formed and fix my grammar mistakes. Whereas YouTube, you can just sit down and start talking, and you can come back to a point and expand on it and then jump ahead and come back, and it's a one-sided conversation, but the dynamic is great because it's more like a conversation, and it's also easy. Like I'm doing them in one take, sometimes two, just because I flub and I just go back and do it again. But generally I do them in one take, and I think there's an earnestness there that I think people enjoy. They're doing well. I've tweeted them and Facebooked them, but I haven't done an email push to my own contact list with those yet, and they're up at about 70-80 views, which is not, on the internet that doesn't sound like a lot, but on videos that I do on my own YouTube in a very small market of my listening area, that's pretty high. So
you asked for people to submit questions. Are you able to tell if this is the Green Party followers asking the Green Party candidate questions, or are you able to tell if these are other people who are legitimately trying to gauge whether you're where they're going to put their vote?
Well, specifically on the Catholic school funding question, that one I didn't do in direct response to a single person, but there was a media coverage day last week where that topic was just, I had a lot of Twitter conversation with people back and forth, and I decided that's a good topic to do a 7-minute roundup and discuss why it's discrimination to other faiths, why it's employment discrimination to a whole bunch of people in Ontario who can't work in 1/3 of publicly funded schools, and so on and so on. So it was a good chance so that one was, there's been one question was handed to me, but it's a question he put to all the candidates. So I know it was a cycling and pedestrian infrastructure question from a person I know who supports me. I installed a lawn sign for him the other day. But it's still a question he genuinely puts to all the candidates. So it's still a fair answer, a fair question. Well, something I know that people enjoyed last time was us just tweeting not pictures, but notices of a sign being down. So as a campaign team, you put a lot of volunteer labor into putting signs up, and to see them down is always, maintaining them is another problem. So it was just an easy collegial thing to do, to just let the other candidates know that I saw a sign down, and then that's easy to dispatch to a volunteer to go fix it. A local reporter who wasn't aware that we were doing this last time, and we're still doing it now this time, had a funny, cynical view of that, which is, so she asked, like, what is this sign down hashtag that you're using? And when I explained it, she was then explaining it to someone else on Twitter. This is why Twitter's fun, because you see the conversation go on. So she was explaining it to someone else and said, oh, that's what they tweeted at each other after they knocked the signs down, which is not true. It's never been done. It's fun to do because so much of what we see in political coverage of media, or media covering politics, is really what the crafted, honed message that the leaders are saying at media availabilities, probably not in response to questions from the media, because it's very controlled by the leaders about what they want to get the message out, which tends to go negative very quickly. This is politicians who are ready to combat on policies and ideas, and we have huge differences on there, and I have all sorts of bones to pick with all the other candidates on these policies. But as people, they're all nice people, and I think that kind of comes out, and it's good. I think it's good for people to see that politics doesn't have to be always negative. I think Google Plus, Facebook covered that area of what Google Plus wanted to be. I think Google Hangouts, on another hand, which is really YouTube. That's got huge potential. I've used it not for Green Party stuff, but helping other people with their panel debates and stuff. And Hangouts was perfect. It worked flawlessly. So I think there's potential there. Well, so just this morning before you got here, I was taking the Green Party platform where we called out 9 specific priorities that we would look at, in addition to our wide platform of ideas that we're happy to have people come and look at and steal from if need be. So I'm going to now, so I put them on my webpage as 9 unique pages, so I can send people directly to them and say, this is our child poverty initiative, this is our energy conservation initiative, and so on. I'm going to go back to YouTube and record whatever I say in about 6 or 7 minutes about, in addition to only 3 or 4 short paragraphs about what the problem is and 1 sentence about what we're going to do about it. I'm going to take that time to use video to expand on it and talk, what was the driving initiative behind why we chose this, and what are some of the, in a platform document you wouldn't talk about what the other parties are doing because you're only supposed to talk about yourself, but on video it makes sense to say, contrast the parties and say, the NDP or the Liberals are doing this is our idea, how are they perhaps failing to address this problem, this is why we picked this particular solution as opposed to others. Video is good for that. To write that up, it would be a thesis and no one would read it. So that's probably what I'll do in the next little while. And then during debates in real person, in real life, when I'm talking to someone, I can say, go to my website, kevino.ca/platform/poverty, and you can come into more detail.
But when you shoot the videos, you essentially shoot them in one take. What role do you think there is for, I'll call it the polished presentation and versus the unpolished presentation, and vice versa? So where do those both fit into a campaign?
So this is perhaps just my own taste, but I have very little patience for polished. I've only watched one of Stephen Harper's 24/7 videos because I've never been able to get past the opening 2 seconds of some sort of shot where it's shot from inside a car and there's royal, majestic music, very presidential, and it just turned me off immediately. I'm like, even if there's something valuable that I should learn about the Prime Minister's week, I can't get past this artifice of this presentation. So I like the informal, this is me. If I were elected and you're a representative and I was at a random community meeting about a particular topic, this is what you're going to get from me. I'm doing my best to be informed, and I can speak off the cuff about important issues that are important to people. And I think a polished video, while perhaps it presents better and meets criteria and checkboxes of what you're supposed to do in the media, it doesn't, I think, give voters a good indication of, are you going to be able to do the job?
Do people watch the full 7 minutes? Like, do you go into your YouTube stats and go and see when people drop off?
I haven't done that. When this interview is over, I'll go do that. I'm curious myself. I'm a computer programmer by trade. I'm soaked in technology week after week, day after day. So it's really my native area. I rebuilt my website the 2 days after the writ was drawn up. I don't want to offend anybody. I mostly do. I usually just keep saying drop the writs to troll people who. Anyway, sorry. That's a tangent.